Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are in the prophet Zechariah, chapter 11, verses 4 through 17. Now, the Lord gives to Zechariah a prophecy, and this prophecy is about the Messiah. He speaks first about how he sends the one to shepherd his people, amongst people who don't want him. And this is Christ, preaching amongst the wretched over whom there's nothing holds sway but death and slaughter, and all those who are captive to sin, right? Who have nothing but death awaiting them. And as these people are governed by the buyers and sellers and the leaders of this day and age, those people only destroy souls with impunity. They fear nothing for themselves, right? They have no compassion for the sheep that they abuse and exploit. But these people themselves, the flock, they are lost in the wicked teaching that causes the Lord to punish them. And it is in that punishment, in that he's destroying their sin, that they will be open to the gospel. And so he speaks about how, I shepherded the flock that's marked for slaughter, that's under the curse of death, right? And I took out the two staves, one that is delightful, that she calls favor, but it is the gospel. It is the gospel which gathers, enlightens, and nourishes the people. And the other staff, he calls it union, but it is the law that holds people in line and threatens them. And the thing is, it sounds like it's hard when it's preached to them, but that's because they're inflexible, self-righteous people who think they need nothing of God unless they're terrified by it. Now he says, now I got rid of the three shepherds, and this is a reference to the threefold pattern of leadership in Israel of the priest, the prophet, and the prince or the king. And now all of that has been subsumed into Christ himself, who is the king, the priest, and the prophet, right? He goes on to say they had their fill of me, They detested me. And I don't want them because they don't want me. And so it's interesting as how upset unbelievers are that Christ has no concern about them. They hate him, but they don't understand why he isn't still concerned about them. And so he says, let the dying die, the perish, and let the rest of them, cannibalize them. And then he goes on in verse 10, I took my staff, favor, or the gospel, and broke it. And the gospel has been taken away from them. It was taken away from the Jewish people, and it's taken away from all people who refuse to accept it. But then he goes on in verse 11, and he said, my covenant was revoked. The promises have revoked. And so later he will break off the piece of the other staff, which is the law, because that's been removed from them so that they don't even have that to guide their life. They're descending simply into wickedness. Now he speaks in verse 13, at 12 and 13, he says, if you think it's best, pay me what I am due, the honor, the privilege. But if not, buy me off. And so they sell Christ for 30 pieces of silver. This is a reference to how he is sold by Judas and the money is thrown into the potter's field. And then picking up at verse 15. So after the Christ is rejected, he sends another shepherd, a foolish, worthless shepherd, who is irresponsible and exploitive. And he says that these idolatrous shepherds that are allowed to rule, that they will be judged by the same standards. Hey, thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.